All right, what's up, YouTube? Obviously, for those of you guys watching after the live stream, I'm going to get started with our topic 6.0 versus 6.7 Powerstroke. And as people come into the live stream, this is obviously the first official one back for those of you that have been longtime subscribers here. So, very, very excited to start doing this again. It's been a long time. We are officially back doing live streams. So, I do expect it to take some time before it gets back to its old level of growth, but we are going to start doing them. Obviously, working on our platform as well as those of you guys that saw the dry run a few weeks back, trying to fix this lighting situation here. And as people come in, we'll go to questions. But first, 6.0 Powerstroke or 6.7 Powerstroke, and what is my favorite one? If you guys, if you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a big thumbs up, and everybody, welcome back to the channel as we are officially doing it full time again. So 6.0 versus 6.7. I obviously own both of these engines. I love them both. I know you guys are probably missing the 6.0, but hopefully, I spoke with the shop this past week. I'm hoping to go in this coming week and get an official, or hopefully find out that it's being worked on. So that's coming in the very near future. But it's right around the corner, guys. I know it doesn't seem that way, but it is right around the corner. There's a lot of pros and cons to each of these engines. Those of you guys joining right now, don't forget to give this video a like, and please join me in the live chat. Ask any question you'd like. We do try to keep it truck related, but as long as it's appropriate, ask any question that you guys would like. So let's start with the 6.0. Let's start of the drawbacks of the 6.0. That's probably what most people kind of attack, are the drawbacks, and then we'll transition to the fixes and how I think these correlate to the drawbacks and the new big fix that the 6.7 has now. So drawbacks to a 6.0, I actually don't think there's that many. Now, one of the ones people will talk about, the interiors are getting a little older. I still like them. I do plan to actually eventually update mine to a 6.7 interior in a few years. That'll be a future project, kind of way out there. But the interiors are getting a little aged compared to the newer trucks. I feel like my light's flickering as I do this a little. Sorry about that. Still working on getting this platform all figured out. But past the interiors, past the cosmetics of it, let's talk about what might be a drawback to it. 4 bolts per cylinder head really kind of sucks. It's just not, it was a terrible design. It should be 6, and in the 6.7 they did fix that. They did go to a 6 bolts per cylinder style, which worked really well. Guys, we got 2 people on, which isn't a lot. We were at 5 a minute ago, but please hit that like button, and don't forget to share this with anybody that might be interested in it. What is the fix for the cylinder, for the only 4 bolts per cylinder? And the only real fix is honestly to go to an aged head stud, not aged. Go to an ARP head stud. I know there's a few other brands that people are messing with right now. I'm not as familiar with them, so I don't want to really comment on whether I think they're a good idea or not. But ARP head studs are pretty proven. I always tell people up to about 550, go with a standard ARP head stud and an O-ringed head. That should provide sufficient clamping force. I'm obviously a big fan of Kill Devil Diesel, so check those guys out for their O-ringed heads. I ran their cast heads, and then now I'm going to be running their aluminum, or I ran cast iron. I'm going to be running aluminum here shortly in the 6 liter. So I have their new aluminum one Icon series that are going on. Now, from there, also, guys, if you could comment, let me know how I'm sounding. Is the microphone picking up enough sound? Everything's plugged in. I just want to make sure, can I get a sound check from somebody currently watching? Get in the live chat, let me know how this sounds. It's still a pretty new setup, and I've messed with some settings, so I just want to make sure you guys are able to hear me well, and that it's not too overbearing. I can make some changes here while in the live stream. But that's probably the biggest drawback, is the cylinder head, or the bolts per cylinder. Thank you, man, and welcome to the live stream. I appreciate it. Always good to get you guys. I try to get you guys as involved as, oh, there's a bug here. I try to get you guys as involved as possible. It makes this a lot more fun, and it helps pull people in as they see us interacting together. So please, as you have questions, or if you want to even change topics, I'm okay with that. Just throw the questions in the live stream or in the chat. So if you're over 550 horsepower, I still recommend the O-ringed heads, but then I also recommend going with a custom aged head stud from ARP as well at that point. Those are for the higher horsepower builds. They're meant to be retorqued as well. They're not like, I believe the standards are like 3 uses and done, whereas the other ones you can get additional uses, and just overall the clamping force is much greater on the custom aged ones. That's why on our build we went with custom aged head studs from ARP. Again, I know there's other brands out there. I'm not as worried about them. I don't know as much about them, whereas ARP is pretty proven. I think Exotic is one that's kind of up and coming. I'm hearing a lot of, but until they've really been being used for 3-4 years on some bigger builds, I'm a little hesitant of some of these newer companies out there making these head studs for such a high compression engine that already is at a downfall from having only 4 bolts per cylinder. So that's kind of one of the biggest flaws of the 6.0. Moving on to what I think is a really frustrating point, and I'd love to see a company like, I don't like any of the actual solutions for the oil cooler issues the 6-liter has. They seem to be resolved in later styles. Like, you don't hear about it in the 6.7, despite them being a very similar style. They're different, but they're a very similar style oil cooler in the 6.7, but you don't hear about the issues with them the way you do in the 6-liter world. So my dog's going to be coming to join us here. But go pup. So but that's kind of the next issue. Hi, honey. You want to get on the live stream? For those of you that might be newer, this is my dog, Izzy. And she does not like when I don't pay attention to her. Do you? So, although this camera catches are really good, my old setup, it was a little harder to see. It's kind of funny. You guys can actually see her. The oil cooler is kind of the next little issue. And it's not really a little issue. It's kind of a multifaceted issue in the 6-liter. So you really had the EGR cooler that was failing and the oil cooler failing at the same time, which also then in turn ended up taking the head gaskets out as well. So the oil cooler fell. So there's particles in the coolant or sand or debris in the cooling system that gets stuck in the passageways of the oil cooler, and eventually it bursts. At this point, it has starved the EGR cooler for coolant flow. In turn, that bursts as well. Now, it might be a smaller leak. I don't know the degree of which I've seen them break, but this will push coolant into your engine. Even though it doesn't have great flow, it still gets some flow. It's just decreased. So we have a cooling system that can, what they refer to as milkshake. And then we get coolant in the cylinders, which will then break the head gaskets, blow the head gaskets, which led to this big issue at the 6-liter. So here are your fixes. Monitor your oil and coolant temp semi-regularly. It's pretty easy to do before a month before a big trip. You should check it, get it up to operating temp, and drive it down the highway at 65 miles an hour, preferably pretty flat land. Maybe a slight incline would be okay, but I would try to avoid a decline if I could. And as long as they stay less than 15-degree difference, so your coolant should always be a little lower than your oil temp once up to operating temp. Sometimes on the way to operating temp, your coolant can actually be a little hotter, I've seen. But, once you're at operating temp, you shouldn't see that anymore. Unless there's a big issue somewhere, which could be other things. So, in my opinion, sure, there's other issues with owning a truck. Those are my 3 issues with the 6-liter. I forgot to say, and get a heavy-duty EGR cooler would be my next recommendation. Obviously, everybody knows the EPA is really, 10 years ago, you could really delete it and forget it, which was kind of the ultimate fix. But the EPA has really come down on that. And I think 10 years ago, we didn't really realize that it was so frowned, like that it was going to turn into what it is. Nobody 10 years ago, people didn't think about, oh, I'm breaking the law. We thought we were fixing our trucks and stuff like that. So that's what the whole industry did. And now we obviously know different. It's been a big deal. I miss the days of deletes. But let's compare that to a 6.7. Now, to be fair, I'm only going to talk about 2015 and newer 6.7 Powerstrokes. I have a whole video talking about the differences between the years of 6.7 Powerstrokes. It's actually my most viewed video on the channel. I'm not going to replay it here for you guys. You guys can ask me questions, feel free, and I'll answer them. But let's really focus on 2015 and newer. And guys, we're up to 5 people in here. I would love to see our likes at least hit 5 as well. So guys, don't forget to hit that like button and get in the live chat. Let me know who's here, who's hanging out with us tonight. We'll see how the live stream goes. At least it's our first one back. These take a little bit to build back up to previous levels, but we're going to start doing them pretty regularly again. So the 6.7 Powerstroke, there's some things that are a little quirky with it. However, generally speaking, it's a pretty solid truck. Again, 2015 and newer. My biggest concern I have on the 2015 and newer 6.7 Powerstrokes, the DPF filters can be a bear and they're expensive to replace. I do have a video showing how to take one down if you want to replace your own. I imagine that would probably save a good bit of labor. It's not too terrible to do. EGR coolers are a little easier to replace. The biggest issue on these trucks comes from the CP4 pump, and well, that's upsetting. Someone took my like away. Nope, now we're back alike. But the CP4 pumps on these things are grenading left and right. Fortunately, Ford has a slightly lower failure rate than GM because they were smart enough to put a lift pump, meaning that is a low pressure fuel pump prior to the high pressure fuel pump. So right outside of the tank, there's a pump that pushes fuel up to the high pressure pump, which is the CP4, before it puts it through the rest of the system. Now, there's a new pump that's just recently come out. It's very exciting, and we will be installing this on the 6.7 Powerstroke. I've actually already spoke to our sponsor, DSD, about getting one. So they're going to get us one in, and we'll be doing a video together replacing the CP4 pump with this new style pump. I forget what it's called. I think it's a DCR pump, if I remember correctly. So it's going to be going on our 6.7. We have a 2016 6.7 Powerstroke. So that is something that is in the works now. Getting one, I think, is going to be kind of hard. But I got to tell you, on the 6.7s, you're not hearing about oil coolers. You're not hearing about head gasket failures. Turbos are not failing at the same rate. Which is interesting because my 6.7, I actually purchased, I told them I wanted to buy the truck and there was a turbo issue. That turbo issue was stuck VGT vanes on it because it did a lot of sitting. It was a 2016 I bought not quite a year ago, and it only had 35,000 miles on it when I bought the truck. I have rectified that. We're almost at 50,000 miles. Because I drive a lot. But so that was the one issue I had, was those turbo vanes sticking. And again, they ended up fixing it. I tried haggling with them because I was like, well, I'll just get my turbo sponsor, will send me out a turbo and we'll do a turbo review right away on it. But they fixed it. There is going to be a turbo review coming for that truck. We'll get into some future, like what the next several weeks for that truck look like as far as modifications coming to it. And then we can kind of get into, I know I've talked about it a lot, we can get into modifications happening to our 6.0 as well. So here's, in the scheme of things, their problems. If you map them out, the 6.0 is actually cheaper. to deal with in the problems department. They both have good transmissions. I do love having the extra gear in a 6.7. It has a 6-speed instead of 5-speed, but they both have solid transmissions. The drive terrains are like, other than that, they're very similar as far as axles and stuff, four-wheel drives, all that has a lot of similarities. So there's no real big differences there. So just really talking engine here, if you lose a CP4 pump without one of the disaster kits on it, you're probably talking 10 grand at a dealership. So that's a crazy bill. So one of the things we're going to do here on the channel, we're actually going to install one of the prevention kits. And then when we get our hands on one of the new style pumps, we're going to be putting one of the new style pumps in the truck. Will be the actual like final fix, but I believe it's SS Fuel is the one that has the kit. Like I think they actually grenaded a CP4 pump just to test their kit, which I think is pretty cool. So we're going to be kind of taking some of their information, and we're going to do install videos. We'll obviously do a removal video because we'll have to remove it to install the new pump for the truck, which again should be this upgraded one. And I'm really hoping it has more reliability. It would really stink to spend this money on a pump that's not proven yet. We're going to kind of test it. There'll be from how's the truck feel like it's driving to fuel economy figures, everything. It's supposed to be a direct drop-in replacement, drop the pump in and use it. No tuning needed. I do plan to mess with some tuning in the future for reviews, and we're going to be doing a bigger turbo. We're going to be doing exhaust manifolds on that truck. I have a set of BD exhaust manifolds they actually sent out for the previous 6.7. We're going to put them on this 6.7 because I never put them on the other one, obviously, before we sold it. So we're going to put them on this one, and we're going to kind of go from there. And then once those exhaust manifolds are done, I will probably then be gearing up to look at doing the turbo review. The ever-growing controversial lightning bolt solenoid from our longest sponsor and supporter, our friends over at Turbo Time USA. Really do love those guys and appreciate all the support they've given the channel over the years. So definitely, I would say this year you guys can expect at least 3 different turbos between the 6-liter and the 6.7. I'd say probably only one on the 6.7, and I would expect to see at least 2 different 6.0 turbo reviews, if not an additional third, depending on how the year's going. So big stuff happening on that. We're also going to do some testing of some air filters, or not the filter, but the actual closed versus open air filter on a 6.0, since that seems to be a super controversial topic as well. Every time you tell somebody you're going to upgrade the air filter on your 6-liter, they lose it. I do plan to get into some testing of, oh shoot, what was I just going to say? My dog made a noise and I got distracted very quickly. We're going to do Ficum tuning on the 6.0, so I'm very excited about that. One thing I'll say one thing I think the 6-liter has in its favor over the 6.7 is you get a lot of capability to modify it and still not necessarily completely upset the EPA, which is something the 6.7 severely lacks. Which is frustrating to deal with, but that is a major drawback to the 6.7. If you're somebody like me that wants to customize stuff and make it your own and make it so it's not something somebody can just go buy, the 6.7 is a lot harder to do, especially in a growing number of states, and maintain being legal, or at least being left alone. Those of you guys just joining us, welcome. Don't forget to hit that like button, and please get down in the live chat here, guys. I'm going to say something. Nothing special, just hello. And let's see some. I really love when you guys get in here and start asking me questions about stuff, video ideas, things you guys want to see. I love the interaction, and that's what really makes the live streams a lot of fun. Is the more you guys interact, um, just the more entertaining it is for everybody watching, as opposed to hearing me just go on and on. So please say hi, ask me about anything, diagnostic things some people get. We've seen everything down in the comments or in the live chat, and that's really where I want to see you guys right now, so we can really kind of, it's just a lot more fun for me and you guys, and I think you guys get to engage, and that's why I do the live streams. It is to really kind of get to interact with you guys, and that's what I want to see. All right, now we got some 2 questions here. Thank you guys. I love this stuff. You guys have no idea. So, Jacob, thank you, man, for the chat here. Let's see here. You're doing an oil cooler on your truck next weekend. You have an '06. Would it be worth doing an IPR while you're in there? So it's not a bad idea to do the IPR valve. However, if you're not having